Good evening. Glad to have everybody back out tonight. Remember, we will deliver the fruit baskets immediately following our morning services next week. And we will also have our cantata the week after that on the 18th. No Sunday school. You'll just show up to hear a good cantata. And then we'll have our regular church-wide party that evening. And as we have mentioned before, we will have a service on Christmas Day beginning at 10 o'clock. The doors are going to be open. If you would like to join us, then we would certainly invite you to do so. In no means are we going to shun you if you don't. You might get a strongly worded letter, but that'll be the extent of it. Any other announcements that we need to make mention of? Anything on the prayer list that we need to add or take away? Or everybody's quiet tonight.
I know we got Mother Irvin and Peggy in here, but she's really having a time with a place she had to take knock off her leg, so y'all remember her. Today was her birthday.
Are there any others? If nothing, Richard Carpenter, how about taking us, Lord, in prayer, please?
Thank you, Lord, for letting us be here at your house once again tonight. Lord, worship, praise your name. Lord, pray that put your hand on our prayer requests, Lord, spoken and unspoken. You are the body that bless the home and families, provide every need. We ask this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Number 87. 87, first and last stanzas. Please, it's number 88. We'll do the first and the last stanzas.
No.
One of you.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for letting us come out and learn more about you, Lord. Thank you for the lyrics this morning. And keep us safe as we go into this week. And Lord, forgive us for everything. In Jesus' name, amen.
Number 86. 86, first and last stanzas.
If you have your Bibles tonight, turn to the book of Isaiah, not the book of Nehemiah, even though that's where my Bible is. Isaiah chapter number 9. We want to look at one verse in chapter number 9, verse number 6. Dave, can you turn me down this way? I seem a little loud coming back towards myself. I hear myself enough. I don't need to hear myself more than I do. Isaiah chapter number 9, and we're just going to look at that one verse and really want to look at the last 8 or 9 words of that verse and try to preach something out of that and see the 4 names that are given to the one that would be called Jesus, the one that would be called Christ later in the years. And there are many doubts and many questions upon the validity of the Bible and the history of it and even the prophecy of it. And many believe that the words that were written in the Old Testament were simply written after the fact, and then it tells a good story. But I believe that this one verse, and setting up into the Christmas time, it leaves no air of doubt of that there is no way that this could be made up. Isaiah wrote these words 700 years before the words that would be proclaimed at Christ's birth. 700 years is a long time. Now, Babette's lived through half of that. Anyway. But 700 years is a very long time. So to write these words and then have everything come true is remarkable. Obviously has to be breathed by God. But Isaiah chapter number 9, beginning in verse 6, will be the only verse we read tonight. If you're there, say amen. Amen. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Is that Jesus calling? Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this morning, God, just being able to sit back and listen to those young ladies just sing praise to you. God, we pray that you would continue to bless them and their lives and that ministry, Lord, of reaching out and sharing your message, sharing your gospel through song. God, be with them. God, be with us tonight as we open up your text and we try to study more and learn more about you. God, just put our heads around this place. Lord, we go into choir practice later. Lord, will you bless our voices that we may lift that praise to you once more. We ask that you get all the honor and glory and none for ourselves. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. So Isaiah wrote these words 700 years prior to the announcement of Jesus' birth. But it's probably one of the most well-known Christmas hymns, if you will, or Christmas verses. They're either read in some type of setting, and maybe they're having a carnival. Maybe they're having a parade, and someone reads them over there. I believe it's in Charlie Brown Christmas that Linus comes out and he drops his blanket and begins reading from this same verse. And we can take time after time and cantata after cantata and song after song that have included these very words. If you listen to Handel's Messiah, it is the main part of that song. Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. In Hebrew, these 8 words making up 4 pairs. So these 8 words all consisting, and they both have a double meaning. The first word, or the second word sometimes in the phrase, like of the name, is something that it attributes to a metaphysical, something divine, something that is out there, something that we cannot comprehend about the character of God, the character of the one, the Son that is being named. The latter half, or sometimes the first half, of that name is something that speaks more of the function, the role that that person is going to play. So when you think about it, we break these down. And we'll do that in just a moment. I want to go through and just kind of talk about each of these. But we have Wonderful Counselor. So the wonderful part of it is going to be that divine thing. That's something that is out there that we just cannot understand. And then, of course, the role that Christ would play, the role that God plays, is that counselor. Better than any counselor that is out there. Mighty God, and obviously God being the divine part of that. The Everlasting Father and the Prince of Peace. So let's look at that first one, Wonderful Counselor. And what does wonderful mean to you? What does that word, if we were to break it down, mean to you? Not everybody at once, or we'll be here all night. Everybody calm down. Y'all can tell the preacher's preaching tonight because the attendance went down tonight. When I think about wonderful, I think about that word, filled with wonder. You hear people, and I get on these kids a little bit here for a minute, and y'all may do it too. We always say, "That's awesome." You ever say that? When you're playing a video game? Man, that was awesome. Did you see that? It's so awesome. We throw that word around too lightly.
It's 6 feet that awesome.
Well, you know what? I was filled with wonder. I was wondering, how in the world does this team do this? That's what I was wondering. And our defense was filled with wonder, W-A-N-D-E-R. They were wandering around the field. Anyway. But we throw out that word. That's wonderful. That's awesome. But do we really know what those things mean? When we think about the divine presence of God, filled with wonderful. Isaiah speaks some more words about that. It even does David in Psalm chapter 78, verse 12. Marvelous things he did in the sight of their fathers in the land of Egypt, in the fields of Zoan, which is one of the cities outside of Egypt on the Nile Delta. We think about in the life that most of these people had lived and the history that is the Old Testament, the mighty wonders that God did time and time again. The first one, obviously, being creation in itself. Because usually when we think about something that is filled with wonder, it passes or surpasses human comprehension. I cannot, in my little bit of a brain, and it's small, it rattles around sometimes, cannot comprehend how a God that has no beginning, He's just there, can speak everything that we have into existence. Now, you and I can argue on the length of time. We can argue on everything. What actually was a day? Bill Clinton, depending on what your definition of is, you know? And we can argue all of those things, but no matter how long it took him, the fact is that it was spoken into existence. He spoke, it happened. That's what happens when you husbands are at home, right? Y'all speak and it happens, right?
That's right, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I know that's the other way around. If the women speak, y'all go do it, okay? I got you back. It's all the woman's fault. That sermon's coming. I'm just letting it brew. But it's filled with wonder. How wonderful the things that God has done. You think about the life of the Israelites at this time. Number one, they're in war. Everything is chaos in the time of Isaiah. Ahaz the king, he is terrible. He's outside and trying to get in, but even the king of Israel at the time didn't know what he was doing. And war was just befalling them time and time again, day after day after day. And they're thinking, how is the God that has gotten us out of Egypt? We have crossed the promised land with Joshua. We've conquered all of these things. But where is the wonder? Where is this wonderful thing that really moves us and just absolutely takes our breath away? Their God, our God, is a doer of miracles, marvelous deeds, wonderful things beyond human comprehension. Could you imagine being in Judea or Samaria or Galilee in the time of Christ and seeing a person that has been lame since birth? Not somebody that had a tractor accident, not somebody that wrecked their four-wheeler and wasn't wearing a helmet, Ryland. Wear your helmet. Someone that was lame since birth, and Christ walks up to him and simply says, thy sins be forgiven. And of course everybody goes, well, would you rather me say arise and walk? Take up your mat? And of course then what did the guy do? He got up. I would have just been, whoa. We would have really been awestruck and we wouldn't have been awesome. Wonderful. Wonderful Counselor. Isaiah chapter number 11 verse 2 says, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of fear of the Lord. That counsel is that perfect wisdom that enables a king to make the right decision in leading the people. Perfect understanding to the will of God. Isaiah chapter number 28 and verse 29 says, this also come forth from the Lord of hosts, which is wonderful in counsel and excellent in working. Now, we all know that Donald Trump has been elected the next president. And right now, even probably in these hours, he is assembling his team of advisors and cabinet posts and counselors. And kings and presidents since the dawn of time, since kings have been kings, have needed a group of advisors. Needed a group of people to help them along the way. But Christ, being the wonderful Counselor, being the God-filled, divine, something out there that we can't explain, he didn't need that. Yeah, he traveled around the country with 12 people and many more that had followed along. The 12 that he called disciples, and of course Mary following along a lot too. But do we ever see any time in the Bible that Jesus stopped and they had a committee meeting and said, all right, boys, what do y'all think we ought to do? Jesus was the wonderful, the God-filled Counselor that is promised in Isaiah chapter number 9. 700 years prior to him. Christ doesn't need someone to be a yes man and tell him this is what you ought to do. Because it means that he's aligned perfectly with God's will. Which I hope we can be that way too, aligned with God's will. We're still going to need Christ, and we're still going to need God more than ever. But why does Christ not need a mediator between him and God? Because he is God. He doesn't need that. So not only is he wonderful, and he is that counselor, that is the role he fills. But next we see that he is a mighty God. And I'm not going to give you all the 8 Hebrew names here because we just get lost in one another. And I'll do that to my Bible kids in class and make them memorize that stuff. That's good for them. We don't need to know that. But this mighty, if it is translated, it means a hero. So not only is he an everlasting, a wonderful counselor, a doer of great things, a doer of great miracles, what is a hero but a doer of great things? Mighty acts done for someone that couldn't do for themselves. You think about you can drive through anywhere, in any state, any city. There's usually a road somewhere that says, somebody, Memorial Highway, right? Most of those folks have some great service. Maybe they're a war hero. We've got Fox Connor, right? In Calhoun County, where is that road? Is that down this way somewhere? You know, and there's a thing hanging of him in the courthouse. We memorialize those great people who've done something great that someone else couldn't do. Well, I know no mightier person than God himself that would send his own son and would certainly do something that you and I couldn't do. Now, you and I could have gone, if we had lived in that time, we could have gone to Calvary's Hill. We could have been crucified for crimes against Rome or crimes against the Sanhedrin. But would it have saved anybody? So the mighty God that would send his own son, born on that night, no matter what night it was, he was born, to live a life perfect. But most mighty men have overthrown somebody. I mean, Moses, when they were coming out of Egypt, he went toe-to-toe with Pharaoh. And time again said, let my people go. And finally, after plague after plague after plague, a siege upon Egypt, if you will, Pharaoh relents and said, let them go. We know that he would chase after them, and because God had hardened his heart, you could read the story. We think about Joshua and crossing into the promised land, going and conquering and doing exactly what God wanted them to do. And we think, wow, what a great leader. We studied about him this morning in Sunday school. What a great leader, stepping into those shoes that Moses filled and bringing the people into the promised land. David conquering all of the land that he did. Did you know that David nearly doubled the size of Israel? He conquered 6 nations that were around him. David was at war all the time. Even Solomon says that when he gets ready to build the temple. He said, my father was at war all the time, had all these enemies at his gate, but now there's peace in my time. So that means I can build the temple. And we think of them as mighty men of God. And the mighty things that he had done. Think about Christ when he healed the lame, when he healed the sick, when he healed the blind. Think about Christ as he's standing at Lazarus' tomb, and Mary and Martha are standing over the side, and they're crying because, Christ, you didn't show up in time, and now Lazarus is dead. It's the 4th day, and it probably stinks up in there, and Christ just sits there, and of course we know that he weeps not only for the compassion of his fallen friend, but also at the ineptitude and the lack of faith on Mary and Martha. And he speaks in a mighty voice, Lazarus! Now, I've said this before, but y'all know why he had to say Lazarus, didn't he? Because if he didn't, all the dead since Abraham would have showed up at his front door. And then there'd been more dead folks. Mary and Martha would pass out. If you'd been there, you'd pass out too. And think about the mighty act that when the sun had darkened, as Christ is hanging on that old rugged cross. And he says, it is finished. They take him off the cross and they lay him into that borrowed tomb. And they think this is supposed to be a mighty man of God, and he is going to overthrow the Roman government. But that's not what he told them the entire time he was there. He never said one thing about throwing the government over. And the mighty act it was for God himself. As I said this morning, many a man have wanted to be God, but only one God has desired to become man. And on that 3rd day, they didn't need to roll the stone away. I believe that God went down and just threw it out of there. And Christ victoriously walked out of the tomb with the keys to hell and death in his hand, conquering everything that we couldn't conquer. The mighty God that he is. Thirdly, we want to think about the everlasting Father. He's the wonderful counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father. Everlasting meaning perpetually. Perpetuity. Meaning it has no beginning, or it has no end, but it also has no beginning. The same way at weddings. Can I borrow your ring for a minute? First time you're taking it off, Ron. Well, you know, the pastors always give this symbol, is that it starts, it has no beginning, it has no end. It's perfect circle. It just goes around and around and around. The same way that God is. He is the everlasting. Everlasting to everlasting is what the Bible even says. And we see that this everlasting God, Isaiah chapter 57 verse 15 says, "For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy." I don't know about you, but I'm going to one day live in eternity, but I don't inhabit it right now. My time will come and your time will come where we will walk from this plane into the next. But God has no beginning and He has no end. Because the first verse of my Bible says, "In the beginning, God." It didn't say the beginning began and then God began. It said, "In the beginning, God." So God has no beginning. He has no end. We think about Father. A father shows compassion, protection, guidance, support, and encouragement. Psalms 103 verse 13 says, "Like a father pitieth or has compassion for his children, so the Lord pitieth them that fear Him." And finally, we have the Prince of Peace. John 18 verse 36, Christ is in Pilate's hall, and He's saying to him, "My kingdom is not of this world. For if my kingdom was of this world, then my servants would have come and fought for it. They would have defended me, that I should not be delivered unto the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence." They say, "My kingdom will be established when I come back." The Prince of Peace. I don't know about you, but I study history quite a bit. And I have never in my life read of any historical account where someone overthrew somebody else by means of peace. It's always been by war. Moses went toe-to-toe with Pharaoh, and everything that besieged Egypt was an act of war against Pharaoh. When Joshua conquered the Promised Land, he didn't come in and say, "Hey, God's here, y'all leave." Now he did exactly as God instructed. He walked around and he declared war against Jericho, essentially. When he didn't do what God wanted him to do, people lost their lives. David, as I said, grew the nation of Israel double. It wasn't by peace. But the Prince of Peace will one day establish His nation and His kingdom. And there will be no war. There will be no famine. There will be no death. All of that we've been studying in the book of Revelation will have come to pass, and Christ will descend to this earth to reign for 1,000 years. And what a peace it will be. "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. And His name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace." Isaiah wrote those words 700 years before the announcement of Christ's birth. But he also wrote something else about that Prince of Peace. In chapter number 53. I like to call that the He Hour. Y'all know what I'm talking about? The He Hour chapter. It says that He took our and He took our. There's also a verse in there that says that the chastisement for our peace was upon Him. And you know as a child of God that you don't have peace without God. But thankfully to the Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace, who took our place on Calvary's hill, we can have peace everlasting. Heavenly Father, we thank You tonight, God, that we could open up a portion of Your Word, that we could study its text, God, and hopefully that these four powerful names of Christ, prophesied some 700 years before the announcement of Christ's birth, would have something that resonates within us. God, that You are filled with wonder. God, You do things in my own life that I cannot explain, but I'm thankful for. And God, we could go around the room and folks could say the same thing. There's just time after time after time that You have done something wonderful and mighty in their life that they can't explain. God, as Brother Kenny prayed so many times that we've heard that peace that passes all understanding, God, You give that to us. We can't find that in the world. We can only find that in the Prince of Peace. So God, this is Your time of invitation. Maybe there's someone here that just needs to get something off their chest. God, these altars are open, and may you deal in their lives as you see fit. So we love you, we praise you, we thank all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. What number?
91.
Got choir practice, and we got some time to make up from Wednesday night, so we may be here a while. There's some barbecue in the oven. If any of you would like some, please take it home. I do not want to have any of it. I pretty much bought it just to make a donation. So if you want some of it, it's in the oven. Please help yourself. Really, I don't want to take it home. I'm gonna eat enough this week. We've got like 2 or 3 dinners, and I'm gonna be. I'd rather somebody else take it. Anything need to be added or taken away? Comments, critiques? We need to start getting comment cards. We need to shorten it up. Anything else? If not, they can keep what you do.
Our Heavenly Father, Lord, now before we thank you again for the opportunity to come to your house tonight to hear your word preached, Lord, we thank you for Brother John, who so eloquently spoke your word. God, I pray that you just help us, Lord, to take it to heart and apply it to our life, Lord. We thank you so much for your word and the Lord, the way it speaks to us. And Lord, I just ask that you be with us this holiday season, God. We may not forget what this season is all about, and it's about the birth of your Son, Jesus Christ. I pray, Father, that you would just help each one of us, Lord, keep that forefront of our minds, Lord, as we approach that day, Lord. Just ask, Father, that you be with us as we leave here. Keep put our heads around, protect us, Lord, and go on our workplace this week. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.